The small spacecraft shuddered as it passed through the thick, purple clouds of the alien planet. Inside, Captain Marcus Hale gripped the edges of his chair, his knuckles white. The engine warning lights blinked frantically, and he could feel the heat rising from the failing core. Years of training had taught him to stay calm in emergencies, but nothing had prepared him for the strange world awaiting him below. The view from the cockpit was unlike anything he had ever seen. Towering spires of crystalline rock shimmered in the dim light, bending colors in ways that made the eye ache and marvel at the same time. Rivers of liquid that glowed faintly under the planet's twin moons cut through valleys of soft rolling terrain. Marcus adjusted the ship's landing thrusters and guided it toward a flat plateau that seemed safe enough for an emergency landing. The moment the ship's legs touched the ground, a silence fell over the area. There were no sounds of wind or movement, just an eerie stillness that pressed against the hull of the craft. Marcus exhaled sharply, the tension leaving his shoulders, though unease remained. He checked the systems one last time. The engines were stable, but only just. He would not survive another fall. He opened the cockpit hatch and stepped outside. The air was surprisingly breathable, though it carried a faint floral scent he could not identify. The gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth's, but it did not hinder his movement. He took a cautious step forward, and then another, his boots crunching softly on the purple dust. It was then that he noticed them. From the edges of the plateau, figures emerged. At first, Marcus thought he was imagining them, tall, almost statuesque beings with long, flowing forms that shimmered in the dim light. Their skin was pale and smooth, almost translucent, and their eyes were large, expressive, and entirely focused on him. There were no males, only women, and they moved with a grace that seemed to defy gravity. Their movements were synchronized but not mechanical, as if each step was part of an unspoken dance. Marcus froze, unsure how to react. Every story he had read about first contact ended badly. He reached slowly for the communication device on his belt, but the women did not speak. Instead, they gestured for him to follow. Hesitation battled with curiosity, but the rational part of his mind reminded him that staying put could be just as dangerous. He took a deep breath and walked toward them. The alien women led him to a city built of crystalline towers and bridges that seemed to grow out of the rock itself. The structures pulsed faintly with light, responding to the presence of life around them. Marcus noticed the bridges swaying gently, though there was no wind. It was as if the city was alive, breathing along with its inhabitants. Every detail was alien and beautiful, yet it carried a subtle warning. This was a place that tested those who entered it. As they moved deeper into the city, Marcus saw other details that fascinated him. Pools of liquid reflected the colors of the towers, and strange plants that glowed faintly swayed as if moved by an unseen hand. There were no signs of machinery, no cars or devices, yet everything functioned perfectly. Marcus's mind raced with questions, but the women did not stop to answer. They only watched him, their eyes intense but not hostile. Finally, they arrived at a central plaza where the tallest tower rose above all others. The air shimmered slightly here, and Marcus felt a strange sensation, like the world itself was acknowledging his presence. One of the women stepped forward. Her form was slightly taller than the rest, and her gaze carried authority and calm in equal measure. She spoke in a language Marcus could not understand, yet her tone was gentle. The device he had on his belt began to translate slowly. "Welcome, traveler," the voice said, simple and formal. Marcus's heart raced. He had not expected words so soon, not in this strange, living city. "You are far from your world. You are seen. You are known." Marcus swallowed hard, trying to find the right response. I am Captain Marcus Hale," he said carefully. "I mean no harm. My ship is damaged. I seek shelter." The woman nodded slightly, a gesture that seemed to carry more meaning than a simple acknowledgement. She turned and motioned for him to follow once more. As they walked, Marcus noticed how the other women watched him, their expressions unreadable. There was no hostility, but there was also no casual friendliness. Every glance, every movement seemed deliberate, as if he were part of some greater test. As the sun dipped behind the twin moons, casting long shadows across the crystalline towers, Marcus realized that he had stepped into a world where humans were strangers. Yet the alien women had chosen to welcome him. There was something in their eyes, something almost sacred, that told him his arrival was more than coincidence. For the first time in his life, Marcus felt a mix of awe and fear so intense it left him breathless. This world was beautiful, alive, and utterly alien, and he had no idea what awaited him inside the city's towers. Yet despite every warning his instincts screamed, he followed the alien women willingly. Something deep inside told him that this was the beginning of a journey far greater than any he had known. Marcus followed the tall alien woman through winding pathways that seemed to glow faintly under the light of the twin moons. Every step he took echoed softly against the crystal walls, yet the sound was strangely muted, as if the city absorbed noise rather than reflected it. The woman moved gracefully, and Marcus struggled to match her pace, his boots crunching on the smooth, glowing surfaces. The plaza opened into a larger space filled with structures unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Buildings spiraled upward in delicate curves, connected by bridges that glimmered like threads of light. Pools of liquid reflected the towering forms, shimmering with colors that shifted with every movement. Marcus could see the alien women performing tasks, though he could not understand them. Some tended to the pools, adjusting the glowing plants within. Others seemed to speak to the buildings themselves, and the structures responded, lights pulsing softly in rhythm with their gestures. Marcus felt both awe and unease. Every motion in this city seemed deliberate, intentional, as if the women were always aware of his presence. They were welcoming, but he could sense an unspoken judgment in the way they watched him. He tried to meet their eyes, hoping to convey calm and respect, but the intensity of their gaze made him feel small, like a child under scrutiny. The tall woman led him toward a building that towered above the rest, its spire shining brighter than the others. Its surface was smooth and warm to the touch, almost alive, as if it responded to the energy of those near it. Marcus paused at the entrance, noticing intricate patterns etched into the crystal walls. The designs seemed to move subtly, rearranging themselves in response to his glance. He felt a shiver of unease. This was no ordinary building. Inside, the air was warmer, softer, and carried a faint hum. The walls pulsed gently, as if breathing, and Marcus realized that the entire structure seemed alive. The tall woman gestured for him to sit on a platform that rose slowly from the floor. As he sat, he noticed other alien women standing in a circle around him, watching silently. Their expressions were calm, yet Marcus felt the weight of their attention like a physical force. One of the women stepped forward, holding a small, luminescent object in her hands. She extended it toward Marcus. The translator in his belt whispered faintly, translating the alien speech into words he could understand. "This is a gift for you, traveler. Accept it as proof of our welcome." Marcus hesitated. Gifts from strangers, especially alien strangers, could be dangerous. But the object was beautiful. A crystal orb that glowed from within with a soft golden light. When he touched it, warmth spread through his fingers, and a subtle vibration seemed to resonate through his body. It was calming, reassuring, yet it carried an energy that Marcus could not identify. As he held the orb, the women began a quiet chant. It was not loud, but it filled the room with a soft, melodic resonance. The air seemed to shimmer, and Marcus felt an odd sense of connection, as if the city itself were alive and responding to the ritual. He tried to focus, to understand what was happening, but the sensation was overwhelming. It was not fear, it was something deeper, a sense of being recognized, tested, and measured. The tall woman approached him again. Her eyes held something Marcus could not name. Curiosity, perhaps, or a quiet anticipation. She placed her hand near his shoulder, and the orb floated gently above them. Light from the crystal projected faint patterns onto the walls, forming shapes that seemed to tell a story. Marcus watched in awe as the images shifted, showing scenes of the alien world's history. He saw great storms that shaped mountains, glowing rivers that flowed without pause, and gatherings of the alien women in ceremonies much like the one he was witnessing now. Marcus realized that he was part of something much larger than himself. The ritual was not just a welcome, it was a message. The alien women had observed him, perhaps even predicted his arrival, and they wanted him to understand their world before speaking. Each movement, each chant, each glowing image was meant to communicate something essential. This planet and its people were extraordinary, and they did not treat outsiders lightly. The images faded, and the orb returned to the woman's hands. She spoke again, her voice calm and gentle. "You are far from your home, human. We do not fear you, yet you must know our ways. Here, you will learn, or you will not remain." Marcus nodded, though he was not sure he fully understood. The weight of her words pressed upon him, yet there was no threat in them, only clarity. He realized that this society measured character in ways humanity had never imagined. Strength, courage, and honesty mattered more than technology or weaponry. The alien women had welcomed him, but they had also begun the subtle process of testing him, observing his reactions, and judging the essence of who he was. As the twin moons rose higher, casting silvery light through the crystalline walls, Marcus felt both awe and determination. He had landed on a world far beyond human understanding, yet he knew he had to prove himself, not through force but through understanding and courage. He did not yet know the trials ahead, but the first steps had been taken. The alien women had welcomed him, but in their quiet, measured way, they had already begun to see what kind of human he was. For the first time since leaving Earth, Marcus felt truly aware of his place in the universe. He was a visitor, fragile and small, yet he carried the potential to show humanity in its most honest and enduring form. The city around him seemed alive, and so did its people. His journey had begun, and every moment promised to reveal something extraordinary. Marcus spent the next hours walking through the alien city, guided by the tall woman whose name he had learned was Soraya. The streets curved and twisted in ways that seemed impossible, yet each step felt natural under his feet. He tried to take in every detail, the flowing bridges, the glowing plants, and the liquid pools that reflected everything like mirrors, but it was impossible to capture it all at once. The city was alive in ways he could barely comprehend, and the alien women moved through it as though they were part of the landscape itself. Despite the calm welcome, Marcus could not shake a feeling of unease. The women's eyes followed him wherever he went. They smiled at him occasionally, but the smiles were measured, almost testing, as if they could read his thoughts. He began to realize that the welcome he had received was not simple kindness. Every gesture had a purpose, every word, every glance seemed to carry a silent question. Soraya led him to a platform overlooking a wide courtyard where hundreds of alien women had gathered. They stood in perfect lines, their movements synchronized, their eyes fixed on Marcus as he stepped forward. A hush fell over the courtyard, and Marcus felt a wave of awareness wash over him. It was not fear exactly, but a recognition that he was being judged. His every move, every hesitation was being recorded in ways he could not understand. One of the women stepped forward, carrying a tablet-like device that glowed faintly. The translator in Marcus's belt immediately started working. "You are our guest," it said, "yet a guest is not always free. The eyes of our people see more than your form. They see your courage, your heart, your mind. You will be tested." Marcus's stomach tightened. He had hoped that the welcome meant safety, but now he understood that survival here required more than physical skill. He had to prove himself worthy, and he had no idea what the tests would demand. Soraya's voice came again, soft but firm. "Our world does not suffer deceit or weakness lightly. You are far from home, human, yet you have been chosen to face the measure of our society. We will see if your spirit matches your appearance." Marcus nodded, his mind racing. He had faced danger before, hostile planets, malfunctioning ships, storms in space, but this was different. This was not about survival in the physical sense. It was about surviving judgment, meeting standards he had never imagined. He realized that these trials would test who he was, not what he could do. The women began to move around him in a slow, deliberate circle. Their motions were rhythmic, almost hypnotic, and Marcus felt a strange pressure in his chest, as if the air itself weighed down with expectation. He tried to remain calm, breathing slowly, repeating to himself that he had faced fear before, yet despite his training, he could not hide the tension in his body. Every glance from them seemed to pierce through him, seeing things he had long hidden even from himself. A young woman stepped forward holding a small crystal. Its glow was faint, but it reflected Marcus's image as he looked at it. The translator spoke again. "Look into this mirror. See yourself not as you wish, but as we see you. Only truth will allow you to continue." Marcus stared at the crystal, unsure what he would see. At first he saw his reflection, the tired, worn face of a man who had traveled far, alone and uncertain. But then subtle changes appeared. He saw flashes of his memories, moments of pride and failure, courage and doubt. He saw the times he had chosen fear over action, yet also moments where he had stood for others, even when it cost him. The crystal did not lie. It revealed everything. Marcus felt a shiver run through him. He realized that the alien women did not need weapons or threats to judge him. They could see the essence of his being, and it terrified him to be so exposed. Yet at the same time he felt something else, an opportunity. This was a chance to show that humanity, flawed and imperfect as it was, carried strength beyond the physical. Soraya's voice broke through his thoughts. Do not fear the truth, human. It is not a burden. It is a choice. Accept what you are and stand or falter and be cast aside. Marcus took a deep breath, steadying himself. He thought of Earth, of the people he had left behind, and of humanity's constant struggle to survive and thrive against impossible odds. He realized that he could not hide or deny what he was. He had to meet their gaze, show honesty, and demonstrate the qualities that defined his species. Not perfection, but resilience, empathy, and courage. He looked up from the crystal, meeting Soraya's eyes directly. In that moment, he felt a quiet understanding pass between them. The alien women were not hostile. They were seekers of truth. They did not measure power in weapons or strength, but in spirit. And Marcus, standing alone in the heart of their city, understood that this was his first real trial. The crowd of alien women shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly, acknowledging his acceptance of the challenge. Marcus felt a spark of determination ignite within him. He had come to this world by accident, yet he would not leave it merely as a visitor. He would meet the measures they set not for pride, but to show that humanity was more than survival. More than conflict, it was capable of honor, courage, and truth. As the twin moons rose higher, casting silver shadows across the courtyard, Marcus realized that the trials ahead would be unlike anything he had faced before. Yet he also knew that for the first time in his life, he was exactly where he needed to be. The alien women had welcomed him, yes, but they had also begun the quiet process of testing him. And Marcus Hale was ready to face what lay ahead. Marcus followed Soraya deeper into the heart of the city, moving through corridors that shimmered with light, as if the walls themselves breathed. The air was calm, filled with a soft hum that resonated through his chest. Every step he took echoed faintly, yet it seemed the city absorbed sound in a strange living way. Marcus could not help but notice that the alien women moved around him with perfect harmony, their eyes never leaving him for a moment. They arrived at a large circular chamber at the center of the tallest tower. The walls were smooth and glowing, covered in intricate patterns that shifted slowly, almost like waves frozen in crystal. The floor was warm under his boots, and the air carried a subtle fragrance of flowers and minerals. Marcus sensed that this chamber was more than a building. It was a place of importance, a heart of the city itself. Soraya stopped in the center and turned to face him. Her gaze was steady, calm, but it held an authority that demanded attention. You have arrived far from home, human, she said, her voice translated by his device. Your journey has brought you here, yet your path is not yet clear. You must take part in the ritual of our people. It is not meant to harm, but to reveal. Marcus frowned slightly. Ritual? He asked. What kind of ritual? Soraya's eyes softened. It is a test not of strength or skill, but of essence. We do not judge with weapons nor with force. We see the spirit of a visitor, the courage, empathy, and truth that lie within. Only by facing the ritual can you be truly welcomed among us. Marcus's heart beat faster. He had expected tests, perhaps challenges of intellect or survival, but this was different. The ritual sounded personal. It was a measure of who he was, not what he could do. He realized that the alien women were not merely observers, they were seekers of truth. A group of women stepped forward, each carrying a small crystal. The crystals glowed faintly, each projecting subtle patterns into the air. These will guide you, Soraya explained. They will not speak, nor will they move for you. You must respond, act with clarity, and show what lies in your heart. Marcus felt a flicker of fear, but also determination. He had traveled across galaxies, faced storms, and survived dangers that would have ended many men. Yet this ritual required a courage of a different kind, an honesty he could not fake. The first crystal floated in front of him, and the patterns it projected began to shift, forming what looked like a maze. The walls of the maze were glowing lines of energy, moving and changing as if alive. Marcus understood instinctively that this was his first trial. He had to navigate the maze not only with skill, but with attention, patience, and calmness. One wrong step could end the trial and perhaps his acceptance. He stepped into the maze, feeling the energy hum beneath his boots. Every turn seemed unpredictable, every path twisting and reshaping before him. The air was thick with anticipation, yet he focused on the light and the patterns. He noticed that the maze responded to his thoughts, subtly shifting when he hesitated or doubted himself. Marcus realized that the trial was not just physical. It was a reflection of his mind, his resolve, and his spirit. Hours seemed to pass as he moved through the shifting paths. He stumbled at times, frustrated when walls appeared where there had been none moments before. Yet he did not give up. He reminded himself of Earth, of the people who had placed their trust in him, of humanity's endless drive to survive and overcome. Step by step he learned to move not only with skill, but with clarity of thought and honesty of intention. When he finally reached the center of the maze, the crystal glowed brighter, projecting a warm light over the chamber. The maze dissolved, leaving him standing in the open space. Marcus exhaled deeply, feeling a sense of relief mixed with exhilaration. He had completed the first trial, and though it had tested him in ways he had never imagined, it had also shown him a new understanding of himself. Soraya approached him again, her eyes soft but keen. "You have passed the first trial, human," she said. "Yet the ritual is not complete. There are more measures to take, more aspects of your spirit to reveal. The path ahead is not simple, nor is it easy. But know this, you are seen, and your courage has been acknowledged." Marcus nodded, feeling a strange sense of pride, yet also awareness of the challenges still to come. The ritual was not only a test of his ability to survive or think quickly, it was a test of humanity itself. These alien women valued qualities that were often overlooked, yet essential: honesty, empathy, and the courage to face oneself. As he followed Soraya out of the chamber and back into the glowing corridors, Marcus realized that the alien women's welcome was more than hospitality. It was an invitation, a challenge, and an opportunity. They had begun to measure him not with weapons or fear, but with wisdom. And Marcus understood that if he succeeded in this ritual, it would not only prove his worth, it would show the strength and spirit of humanity in a way no one had yet witnessed. Marcus woke to a soft glow filling the chamber where he had spent the night. The air was warmer than before, carrying the same gentle hum that seemed to pulse with life. He had been left alone, yet he felt the presence of the alien women surrounding him, invisible but watchful. Today he knew the real trials would begin. Soraya appeared, her movements as graceful and deliberate as always. She spoke softly, the translator converting her words. "Your first trial was only a step, human. Now you will face challenges that test courage, wisdom, and care. Only by passing them will the ritual continue." Marcus nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. He had trained for survival and space exploration, yet these challenges would not be like anything he had faced. They would test him in ways that mattered more than strength or skill. They led him to a clearing outside the city where the landscape shifted before his eyes. A labyrinth of glowing crystal towers rose and fell like waves frozen in motion. In the center, a storm of light and energy swirled as if alive, moving to the rhythm of some unseen force. Marcus could feel the air charged with anticipation and danger. The first trial began with the labyrinth. Marcus had to navigate its shifting paths while carrying a small, fragile container the women handed him. Inside was a delicate, living creature glowing faintly. Its movements were slow and deliberate, yet it responded instantly to Marcus's touch. If he dropped it or failed to guide it safely through the labyrinth, the trial would end. Step by step he moved, keeping his focus on the creature and the paths ahead. The labyrinth shifted with each step he took, walls rising and falling, paths appearing and disappearing. He had to rely on observation, patience, and care. Each wrong move made the walls shift unpredictably, forcing him to retrace steps and adjust. Time seemed to stretch, the sunless sky above glowing faintly with shifting colors. Marcus felt exhaustion, frustration, and fear, but he refused to give in. The creature trusted him, and he could not fail. Slowly he learned the rhythm of the labyrinth, moving with both caution and decisiveness. The glowing walls seemed to sense his intentions, and for the first time, the paths allowed him forward rather than blocking him. After what felt like hours, Marcus reached the center of the labyrinth. The storm of energy swirled around him, crackling with intensity. Soraya's voice echoed softly in his mind. "Now face the storm. Only those who control fear, who act with clarity, may proceed." The storm tested him in ways he had never imagined. It reflected his emotions, amplifying fear, doubt, and anger. Marcus saw visions of past failures, memories of choices he regretted, moments where hesitation had caused harm. He realized that this trial was not only about protecting the creature or navigating the labyrinth, it was about facing himself honestly. He closed his eyes, taking slow breaths, and focused on calm, on purpose, on the truth of who he was. He admitted to the storm his doubts and mistakes, acknowledging humanity's flaws without shame and embracing its resilience and courage. Slowly, the storm's intensity lessened. Its energy seemed to recognize his honesty, parting enough for him to continue. When he opened his eyes, he was standing in a calm clearing, the creature safe in his hands. The labyrinth had vanished, leaving only open space and quiet. Marcus felt a surge of relief and awe. He had not only passed the trial, but he had also begun to understand the depth of the alien women's measures. They did not seek perfection, they sought truth, courage, and care. Soraya stepped forward, her expression calm but approving. "You have shown patience, courage, and care, human." Yet the ritual continues. There are more trials to test wisdom, compassion, and the essence of your spirit. Marcus realized that each challenge would push him further, not physically, but in character. The alien women valued qualities humanity often overlooked: empathy, honesty, and the will to act rightly under pressure. They did not ask him to conquer enemies. They asked him to conquer himself. As the day ended, the twin moons rose, casting silver shadows across the landscape. Marcus held the creature close, marveling at its fragile glow. He felt a quiet connection to the alien world, to its people, and to the journey he had begun. The trials were difficult, yes, but they were teaching him something essential. The measure of a human is not in weapons or strength, but in spirit, in courage, and in the choice to act rightly even when fear presses in. Marcus knew there would be more trials ahead. Each would challenge him in ways he could not yet imagine, yet he felt ready. He had begun to see that the ritual was not a punishment nor a game. It was a recognition of what humanity could offer to the stars. The alien women were teaching him, guiding him, and measuring not only him but the potential of his people. As he walked back to the city with Soraya, Marcus felt a growing sense of purpose. He was far from home, surrounded by beings utterly unlike anything he had ever known. Yet he was beginning to understand that humanity had a place here, not because of power or technology, but because of the qualities that defined them. Courage, care, and honesty. These were the things the alien women valued, and Marcus was determined to meet their measure. The journey ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, Marcus felt that he was not alone. He carried with him the essence of humanity, fragile but unbroken, and he knew that in the trials to come, this essence would be his greatest strength. Marcus stood before a chamber unlike any he had seen before. Its walls shimmered with a soft golden light that seemed to move and ripple like liquid. He felt a strange pull in the air, as though the room itself was aware of his presence. Soraya approached, her steps quiet but deliberate. "This is the final trial, human," she said softly. "It will not challenge your strength or skill, but the truth of your heart and mind. Only by facing yourself honestly will you succeed." Marcus swallowed hard. He had faced fear, patience, and care in previous trials, but this felt different. There was no object to protect, no labyrinth to navigate, only himself and whatever truths the alien women wished him to see. He knew instinctively that this trial would reach the core of his being. As he stepped into the chamber, the golden light intensified, forming shapes and images in the air around him. At first he saw fragments of Earth, cities bustling with life, forests stretching to the horizon, oceans glinting under the sun. Then the images shifted, showing darker moments, wars, disasters, cruelty, and suffering caused by humans. Marcus felt a tightness in his chest. These were the shadows of his own world, reflections of humanity's failings. The chamber seemed to press on him, demanding a response. Marcus realized that this trial was not simply about courage, it was about honesty. He could not hide the darkness of his species nor pretend it did not exist. Yet he also knew that humans carried hope, resilience, and the will to care for one another despite mistakes. Visions shifted again. He saw moments of courage, ordinary people risking everything to save strangers, communities rebuilding after disasters, humans standing against oppression. Marcus understood that the chamber was showing both the light and darkness of humanity. He could be overwhelmed by guilt and despair, or he could embrace the truth and choose to honor what was good. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He acknowledged the failures, the greed, the conflicts, the moments of cruelty that had marred his species. But he also recognized the courage, compassion, and resilience that defined humanity at its best. He admitted the flaws without shame and celebrated the strengths without arrogance. The golden light pulsed in response, brighter and warmer now. The chamber shifted around him, the visions blending into a gentle glow that filled the space. Marcus felt a strange sense of calm, as if the alien women were approving his honesty. He realized that this trial was not about proving perfection, it was about facing reality and responding with integrity and courage. Soraya stepped forward, her expression serene but intense. "You have seen the truth of your kind," she said. "You have acknowledged both the darkness and the light. This is the essence we seek. Only those who can face themselves honestly may stand among us." Marcus nodded. He felt relief but also a deeper understanding. The alien women were not testing him for entertainment, nor were they cruel. They were measuring the qualities that truly mattered: courage, honesty, and the will to act rightly. They had not expected a flawless human. They had expected a human who could face reality and still choose to act with honor. The chamber began to shift again, forming a platform of soft light that lifted him gently. Around him, the alien women appeared, their expressions calm, but filled with quiet admiration. Marcus felt a wave of recognition pass through him. They did not need to speak. Their presence conveyed acceptance and respect. He had faced the final trial, not with weapons or strength, but with courage, honesty, and humility. Soraya extended her hand. "You have completed the ritual, human. You are not only welcomed among us, but honored. Few outsiders have ever passed, for they cannot face the measure of truth. Yet you have." Marcus felt a surge of emotion. He had expected difficulty, danger, perhaps even failure, but he had succeeded, not because of his skill with machines or combat, but because he had embraced the qualities the alien women valued most. He realized that this acceptance was not only for him, it was recognition of humanity itself, fragile and flawed, yet capable of courage, compassion, and honesty. The women gathered around him, forming a circle. Their hands glowed faintly as they moved in a synchronized gesture, weaving threads of light that surrounded Marcus in a warm embrace. The chamber hummed softly, resonating with energy that felt both alien and comforting. He understood that this was their way of honoring him, of welcoming him fully into their society. For the first time since leaving Earth, Marcus felt truly seen, not as a human visitor, fragile and unknown, but as a representative of his species. The alien women had tested him, measured him, and finally recognized the strength and spirit that humanity carried. It was not perfection that they celebrated, but courage, honesty, and the choice to act rightly. As the golden light settled into a soft glow, Marcus looked around at the alien women, their faces serene and welcoming. He felt a deep sense of connection to this world, to its people, and to the journey he had completed. The trials had been difficult, yes, but they had also revealed the essence of humanity in a way he had never imagined. He knew that the final trial had changed him. He was not the same man who had stepped onto this planet days ago. He had faced fear, patience, care, and truth, and he had emerged stronger, wiser, and more aware of the potential of his species. And in that moment, surrounded by the alien women and their warm, radiant presence, Marcus realized that humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through power or conquest, but through courage, honesty, and the will to do what was right. Marcus stepped out of the golden chamber, the warmth of the ritual still lingering in his chest. The city outside glowed softly under the twin moons, the crystal towers reflecting the light in shimmering patterns that seemed almost alive. Every sound was muted, yet every movement around him felt purposeful. The alien women surrounded him, their eyes calm, filled with quiet approval. He could sense that something monumental had shifted. He had passed the trials, yet their welcome was now deeper, fuller, and unlike anything he had imagined. Soraya approached, her expression serene. "You have faced yourself, human. You have seen truth and acted with courage. Today you are honored among us." Her hand extended, not in invitation, but as a gesture of acknowledgement. Marcus felt the weight of it, not authority, but trust, recognition, and respect. He realized then that this was rare, perhaps unprecedented. Few humans, if any, had been treated this way by a society so ancient, so wise, and so deliberate in its judgment. Around him, the alien women began to move in synchronized patterns, their motions elegant and rhythmic. Soft glows emanated from their hands as they traced lines of light through the air, weaving intricate patterns that wrapped around Marcus like threads of energy. He felt the warmth, the subtle pulse of power, and the sense of being fully accepted. It was not just a personal recognition, it was a recognition of humanity itself, fragile and imperfect, yet capable of courage, honesty, and compassion. Marcus realized he had never truly felt this kind of acceptance before. On Earth, humanity often measured itself by power, technology, and conquest. Here, on this distant world, the measure was different. It was spirit, integrity, and the will to do what was right, even when the odds were against you. He felt a quiet pride, not in himself alone, but in what humanity could offer the universe. Soraya's voice came again, calm and clear. "You carry the essence of your species, human. Not in weapons nor in strength, but in choices, in courage, in the will to act rightly. This is what we honor. You have proven that humans are more than survival. They are resilience, compassion, and honesty." Marcus nodded, his eyes scanning the circle of alien women around him. He had spent days in their presence, faced trials that tested him physically, mentally, and spiritually, and now he understood the true purpose of the ritual. It was never about punishment, nor simple curiosity. It was about seeing the essence of a being and understanding the potential that being, and by extension their species, held. He felt the enormity of what had occurred. Humanity, through him, had been seen. The women's movement slowed, and the glowing threads that had wrapped around him formed a delicate, radiant pattern that hovered in the air. Soraya placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch light but firm. "Let this mark the bond between our worlds. You have proven yourself worthy of trust, and in turn you carry our recognition back to your people." Marcus exhaled deeply, feeling a sense of completion, of arrival unlike anything he had experienced before. He had journeyed across space expecting danger, uncertainty, and perhaps even failure. Instead, he had found a world that tested him in ways he had never imagined, and he had risen to meet the challenge. But more than that, he had witnessed a society that valued qualities humans often overlooked. He understood now that this acceptance was a gift, a lesson and an honor all at once. Around him, the women's ritual slowed, and the air settled into calm resonance. Marcus felt the threads of light dissolve gently, leaving him standing in the quiet, luminous city. Soraya's gaze lingered on him, serene but filled with meaning. "The world you return to will never see you in the same way again," she said softly. "You carry something more than experience. You carry the acknowledgement of what humanity can offer when it acts with honesty, courage, and care." Marcus looked around at the city, at the shimmering towers, the glowing pathways, and the alien women who had tested and welcomed him. For the first time, he felt that he truly belonged, if only for a moment, in this strange and extraordinary world. He understood that the trials had not only measured him, they had revealed the strength of humanity itself. He stepped forward, raising his head and meeting Soraya's eyes directly. "I will honor this," he said quietly. "Not just for myself, but for humanity. We will not fail this trust." Soraya nodded once, a gesture of solemn approval. "We believe in what you carry, human. Go forward with honesty and courage, and let your actions speak for your people." As Marcus prepared to leave the chamber, he felt the city itself pulse gently beneath his feet, as if the world recognized his presence and his purpose. He realized that this journey, though beginning with fear and uncertainty, had transformed him. Humanity, fragile yet enduring, had found recognition among the stars. And Marcus, standing in the radiant glow of the alien city, knew that he had become a bridge between worlds, proof that courage, honesty, and care could earn a place even in the hearts of the most extraordinary civilizations. The twin moons reflected off the crystalline towers as he walked toward the exit, each step lighter than the last. Marcus Hale had arrived a visitor, unsure and alone. He would leave as an honored guest, carrying with him a truth greater than any artifact or technology, that humanity's spirit, tested and unbroken, was seen, valued, and welcomed among the stars.